Every great change begins in the invisible world, the world within your own mind. Before anything happens out there, something powerful must happen in here. Every thought you hold, every idea you repeat, every mental picture you nourish. These are the architects of your reality. The truth is simple: your life always moves in the direction of your dominant thoughts. If you think in terms of success, growth, peace, and abundance, your mind will begin to create the conditions for those things to appear. But if your thoughts are filled with worry, doubt, and fear, then those very thoughts will construct barriers between you and everything you truly want. Each day, from the moment you wake up, your thoughts begin shaping your destiny. You can't control every event that happens to you, but you can control how you think about it. And that is where true mastery begins. Every person alive has been given a priceless gift, the power to choose their thoughts. Yet most people surrender that power to circumstances, moods, and other people's opinions. They drift, unaware that their thinking is steering them toward results they do not want. But you can be different. You can decide, today, right now, to take command of your mind. To master your thoughts every single day is not about perfection. It's about awareness and discipline. It means catching yourself when your thoughts begin to wander into fear, replacing them with thoughts of courage. It means watching your inner dialogue, because every word you speak to yourself is a seed, and what you plant in your mind will grow. If you wake up each morning and feed your mind with ideas of purpose, gratitude, and strength, you begin to build an inner environment where success naturally flourishes. The more you direct your thoughts, the more your life responds in kind. You'll notice opportunities appear where once there were none, and clarity where there used to be confusion. The secret to transforming your life lies not in trying harder, but in thinking better. Your results are always a mirror of your mental habits. When you change the way you think, you automatically change the way you act, and when your actions change, your entire world begins to change. Every day offers you a new chance to think differently, to choose thoughts that lift you rather than limit you. And if you stay faithful to this practice, your life will soon become a reflection of the greatness you've been cultivating within. Every single thing you experience begins first as a thought. The direction of your life, the quality of your days, the results you produce, all of it flows from the pattern of thoughts you hold most often. When a person realizes that their dominant thoughts determine their direction, they begin to understand the immense power hidden within the mind. It's not the big moments or the rare flashes of inspiration that shape destiny. It's the quiet, consistent flow of thoughts that pass through your consciousness every day. Every thought leaves a mark, small but significant, and over time those marks form the map of your life. The person who constantly entertains thoughts of growth, purpose, and achievement will naturally begin to attract opportunities that match those ideas. Likewise, the one who allows thoughts of fear, limitation, or defeat to dominate will unknowingly build barriers that keep them trapped where they are. Your thoughts are like the compass of your life, always pointing you toward the direction in which you are thinking. If you spend your days thinking about what you don't want, about what could go wrong, about the past or the obstacles ahead, then you are giving energy to the very things you wish to avoid. The mind doesn't differentiate between what you fear and what you desire. It simply moves toward what occupies your attention the most. That is why it is crucial to become aware of what dominates your inner world. If your dominant thoughts are negative, they quietly shape your actions, your habits, your tone of voice, even the way you see the world around you. But if your dominant thoughts are aligned with success, confidence, and purpose, they begin to mold your life into something extraordinary. Imagine your mind as a garden. Every thought you think is a seed. You cannot plant weeds and expect flowers to grow. Yet that's what many people do unconsciously. They fill their minds with worry, frustration, and doubt, then wonder why their lives are filled with struggle. But those who deliberately plant thoughts of possibility, gratitude, and determination eventually see the fruits of that thinking appear in their reality. It doesn't happen overnight. Just like a gardener must water and tend to their plants daily, you must nurture your dominant thoughts with patience and repetition. Over time, the soil of your mind becomes fertile ground for success to take root. The truth is, you are always becoming what you think about most. If you hold the image of who you want to be clearly in your mind, and you return to it day after day, your thoughts begin to shape your decisions, your energy, and your direction. They subtly guide you toward people, situations, and choices that align with that vision. It's not magic. It's the natural law of cause and effect operating in the mental world. Thought is the cause, experience is the effect. What you consistently allow into your mind determines what you consistently experience in your life. When you look at the most successful, fulfilled people in any field, you'll find they all have one thing in common: clarity of thought. They think in terms of solutions, not problems. They think in terms of growth, not survival. They hold strong mental pictures of the future they wish to create, and they refuse to let fear or doubt occupy their minds for long. They understand that mastering their thinking is not optional. It's the foundation of everything else. Every day you have the choice to direct your mind toward thoughts that lift you higher or pull you down. Most people drift through life thinking whatever shows up, reacting to circumstances, and letting the outside world control their inner state. But when you decide to take control of your thoughts, you stop being a victim of chance and start becoming the creator of your destiny. The key is repetition. The more you dwell on thoughts of progress, success, and possibility, the more natural they become, until eventually they form the dominant vibration of your mind. That vibration then attracts ideas, opportunities, and experiences that match it perfectly. Your dominant thoughts act as magnets, pulling toward you the people, resources, and events that resonate with the same frequency. This is why it's so important to think deliberately. Every thought is either moving you closer to what you want or further away. The direction of your life is never random. It's the direct reflection of what you've been thinking about the most. When you begin to observe your thoughts, to guide them consciously, you reclaim the power to shape your own future. It's a discipline that requires daily awareness, but it's the price of true freedom. Once you understand that your dominant thoughts determine your direction, you can never again see your mind as something passive. It becomes your greatest tool, your silent partner in creation, and the source from which every achievement begins. Every person has been given the power to choose their thoughts, yet very few realize what an extraordinary gift that truly is. In every situation, no matter how small or how overwhelming, you have the ability to decide how you will think about it. You cannot always choose what happens to you, but you can always choose the meaning you give to it, and in that simple choice lies your freedom. Most people go through life believing that their moods, reactions, and emotions are dictated by what others say or do, by circumstances or luck. But the truth is that the power has always been within them. The power to direct the mind toward calm when others would panic, toward gratitude when others would complain, toward hope when others would despair. Every choice of thought sends a signal that shapes the course of your life. This power to choose is not something reserved for special people. It belongs equally to every human being, regardless of background, education, or circumstance. Yet many surrender it without even realizing it. They allow the outside world to control their inner world. A few harsh words from someone else can ruin their entire day because they have not learned to guard their thoughts. They let opinions, disappointments, and fears run freely through their minds, unaware that each thought carries a consequence. But the moment a person begins to take ownership of their thinking, everything changes. They discover that they are no longer at the mercy of life. They are participants in its creation. The power to choose your thoughts is the power to choose your direction. Each thought you select builds a pattern that your subconscious mind follows. If you consistently choose thoughts of courage, persistence, and confidence, your actions will begin to mirror those thoughts. But if you allow yourself to dwell on discouragement, jealousy, or resentment, your behavior will unconsciously align with those emotions. The mind is obedient. It follows the dominant command it receives. So if you tell yourself that you are capable, focused, and resourceful, your mind will begin searching for ways to prove it true. But if you keep repeating that you are unlucky, tired, or defeated, your mind will make sure you find evidence to support that belief as well. Choosing your thoughts is a discipline that requires awareness. Throughout the day, thoughts will appear from every direction, some useful, some destructive. You cannot always stop a negative thought from entering your mind, but you can refuse to entertain it. You can acknowledge it, and then replace it with a more empowering one. The mind cannot hold two opposing thoughts at once. One must dominate. So when you choose optimism, you push out fear. When you choose gratitude, you silence complaint. When you choose faith, you weaken doubt. Every conscious act of mental substitution strengthens your control over the inner world. Over time, as you practice this power, you begin to feel a subtle but profound shift. Situations that once made you anxious lose their hold over you. People who used to provoke you no longer have the same effect. You start to notice that peace and confidence are no longer fragile emotions but steady companions. This is the result of mental discipline. You are no longer reacting to life. You are responding with intention. You begin to understand that external events are neutral. It is your interpretation of them that gives them meaning. And since you are the one assigning meaning, you are also the one shaping the experience. The greatest leaders, thinkers, and creators in history understood this truth. They disciplined their minds to think clearly even in moments of chaos. They trained themselves to see opportunity where others saw defeat. They guarded their mental environment as carefully as a gardener guards the soil. They refused to let destructive thoughts take root because they knew those thoughts, if allowed to grow, would choke out everything good. You possess that same ability. You have the same mental faculties, the same capacity for direction. Each morning when you awaken, you stand at the crossroads of countless possible days, and the road you take is determined by the thoughts you choose to travel upon. Once you begin to live with this awareness, the world around you begins to respond in kind. You find that when you choose thoughts of kindness, people treat you differently. When you choose thoughts of abundance, opportunities seem to multiply. When you choose thoughts of strength, challenges begin to appear smaller. The circumstances themselves may not change overnight, but your relationship to them transforms completely. That is the quiet miracle of mastering the power to choose your thoughts. Life does not need to change before you do. When you take control of your inner dialogue, you reclaim authorship of your story. One thought at a time. Awareness is the foundation of all change. You cannot master your thoughts until you become aware of them, because you cannot control what you do not notice. Most people drift through their days unaware of the constant stream of thoughts running through their minds. They react to their emotions, speak without thinking, and make choices driven by patterns they don't even realize exist. Awareness is the light that exposes those hidden patterns. It allows you to step back and observe what's happening within you, to see the connection between what you think and what you experience. The moment you become aware of your thoughts, you separate yourself from them. And in that separation, you discover freedom. At first, awareness may feel uncomfortable. You start noticing how often your thoughts lean toward doubt or fear, how quickly you judge yourself or others, how easily your mind drifts into negativity. But that discomfort is not failure, it is progress. It means you are finally seeing what has always been there. The act of noticing is the first act of transformation. You cannot change a habit while it's hidden in the shadows of unconscious thought. But once it's brought into the light, it begins to lose its control over you. Awareness weakens the grip of automatic thinking. It turns reaction into reflection and confusion into clarity. To build awareness, you must practice stillness. Spend moments each day simply observing your thoughts without judging them. Let them come and go like clouds passing across the sky. When you do this, you start to realize that you are not your thoughts. You are the one watching them. This small realization changes everything. When you no longer identify with every passing thought, you gain the power to choose which ones to accept and which ones to release. You can look at a thought and say, "This does not serve me," and let it go. That simple act, repeated often, reshapes the landscape of your mind. Awareness is not about controlling every thought. It's about becoming conscious of the direction they are taking you. It's about asking yourself, what am I thinking right now? Is this helping me grow or holding me back? That question alone can shift the energy of your entire day. You begin to recognize that many of your thoughts are simply repetitions of yesterday's worries, old beliefs you've outgrown, or borrowed opinions that were never truly yours. Once you see this, you can begin the process of replacing them with thoughts that align with who you are becoming. With awareness comes responsibility. You realize that you are the gatekeeper of your mind. Every thought is either allowed entry or turned away by your awareness. You learn to guard your attention because whatever you give your attention to grows stronger. The more aware you become, the less power outside circumstances have over you. You start to respond rather than react, to pause before you speak, to think before you decide. You begin to move through life with intention instead of impulse. Awareness creates space between thought and action, and in that space lies wisdom. As awareness deepens, you start to see patterns in yourself, the triggers that lead to negativity, the thoughts that bring peace, the mental habits that either strengthen or weaken you. You learn to catch yourself in the moment, to redirect your focus before a small worry turns into a storm. You begin to sense when your mind is wandering toward complaint, comparison, or fear, and you gently guide it back to gratitude and purpose. This ongoing process turns your mind into an ally rather than an enemy. You no longer feel pulled by unconscious forces because you are the one holding the reins. True awareness brings calmness. You stop fighting your thoughts and instead learn to observe them with understanding. You see that thoughts come and go, that none of them define you unless you choose to make them your truth. You start to recognize the quiet space beneath all thinking, the steady awareness that has always been there, unchanged by success or struggle. From that place of clarity, you make better decisions, handle challenges with more patience, and see life with greater perspective. Awareness doesn't remove difficulty, but it changes how you experience it. You begin to live with a sense of deliberate control, no longer pushed around by the noise of the mind. And as awareness grows stronger, you naturally begin to master your thoughts, not through force, but through understanding, not by suppressing them, but by seeing them clearly for what they are. Momentary ripples on the surface of a much deeper stillness. Your inner dialogue is the quiet voice that shapes every action, decision, and belief you hold about yourself. Most people are unaware of how powerful that inner conversation truly is. From the moment you wake up, your mind begins to speak, commenting on how you feel, what you can or cannot do, what the day might bring. Over time, these inner words form patterns, and those patterns become the script by which you live your life. The thoughts you repeat most often become your beliefs, and those beliefs dictate your behavior. If your inner dialogue is filled with doubt, you will hesitate. If it's filled with confidence, you will act with certainty. The mind is always listening to the words you tell it, and it builds your reality according to those instructions. Every statement you make to yourself is a seed. Some seeds grow into courage, others into fear. Some grow into abundance, others into limitation. The soil of the mind does not question what you plant, it simply produces according to what you sow. This is why it's so important to speak with intention, to guard your inner dialogue the way a craftsman guards his tools. Every time you say to yourself, "I can't, I'm not good enough," or "things never work out for me," you're programming your subconscious to believe it. That belief becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. The mind doesn't argue, it accepts and acts upon what it's told. But when you begin to change your internal language, when you tell yourself, "I am capable, I can find a way, I am improving every day," your mind starts to adjust its patterns to make those words true. Your outer results are a reflection of your inner communication. What you think, you eventually express through behavior, tone, and energy. If your mind is filled with negativity, it shows in the way you walk, the way you talk, and the way you face challenges. People who speak success into their minds naturally radiate confidence and determination, not because they have all the answers, but because they've trained their inner voice to support rather than sabotage them. The quality of your self-talk determines the quality of your decisions. When your inner dialogue is constructive, you become more resilient under pressure. You see possibilities where others see problems. You act from clarity instead of confusion, because your mind is no longer divided against itself. It's not about pretending that everything is perfect. It's about directing your thoughts toward what's possible. You can acknowledge difficulty without surrendering to despair. You can recognize fear without feeding it. The key is to replace destructive words with empowering ones. Each time you catch yourself thinking, "I can't handle this," immediately shift to, "I will find a way." Each time your mind says, "I'm too late," replace it with, "It's the perfect time to begin." This simple mental substitution changes your emotional state and, over time, your entire outlook. What begins as conscious correction eventually becomes automatic habit. The voice within you can either be your greatest enemy or your greatest ally. If you allow it to run wild with criticism, worry, and regret, it will tear down every dream before it has a chance to grow. But if you train it to speak words of encouragement, gratitude, and strength, it will carry you through every obstacle. The inner dialogue you maintain shapes the limits of what you believe is possible for you. Change the conversation and you change the boundaries of your life. The mind learns through repetition. Every phrase you repeat strengthens a neural pathway, carving it deeper until it becomes your instinctive response. This is why affirmations and visualization work, not because they magically alter reality, but because they reprogram the subconscious to expect success instead of failure. Over time, your actions align with these new expectations. You begin to move through life with a quiet confidence, not because the world has become easier, but because your internal voice has become stronger. Becoming aware of yourself, talk is an ongoing practice. Throughout the day, listen to the tone of your thoughts. Are they guiding you forward or holding you back? Do they lift you or limit you? The moment you become conscious of a negative inner statement, you gain the power to rewrite it. You can choose words that build rather than break. You can decide to speak to yourself as you would to someone you deeply care about, with patience, belief, and understanding. When your inner dialogue aligns with your goals, your entire life begins to reflect that harmony. The results you achieve, the peace you feel, and the success you experience all begin with the quiet words you speak to yourself in the privacy of your own mind. Consistent mental discipline is what separates those who wish from those who achieve. Mastering your thoughts once is not enough. It must be done every single day, again and again, until it becomes part of your nature. The mind, left unchecked, drifts toward ease, toward comfort, toward the familiar patterns that require no effort. That is why discipline is essential. It keeps your thoughts aligned with your goals, especially when life becomes difficult. You cannot expect clarity without repetition or strength without resistance. Just as a muscle grows through constant use, the mind strengthens through daily direction. Each day you decide to think positively, to focus on growth instead of fear, you add another layer of strength to your character. Over time, those layers become unshakable. Mental discipline begins with awareness but matures through consistency. It's the habit of watching your thoughts, even when you're tired, even when the world tempts you to react. It's refusing to let moods, emotions, or other people dictate how you think. Discipline means choosing your mental state instead of being a slave to it. You train your mind to return to calm when chaos strikes, to stay centered when others lose control. It's not about ignoring problems, it's about deciding how you will think about them. Every challenge becomes an opportunity to practice self-control. Every distraction becomes a reminder to refocus. Discipline turns the mind into a servant instead of a master. When you live with mental discipline, your thoughts no longer wander aimlessly. They move with intention. You begin to see how many thoughts throughout the day are useless. Complaints, worries, judgments, regrets. Each of these drains energy and steals focus, but discipline allows you to catch them and redirect your attention toward what truly matters. You learn to conserve mental energy, using it to create rather than to criticize, to plan rather than to panic. The disciplined thinker doesn't waste time arguing with circumstances. They observe, decide, and move forward. This quiet efficiency becomes a source of inner peace because your thoughts no longer pull you in every direction. Consistency also builds resilience. On the days when motivation fades, discipline remains. It is the steady force that keeps you moving when emotions fluctuate. Anyone can think positively when life is easy. True mastery is maintaining that mindset when it isn't. Discipline trains you to keep your focus on the larger vision, even when results are slow or setbacks appear. You remind yourself that every great achievement requires time, patience, and persistence. You learn to think long-term, to hold your thoughts steady on the outcome you desire no matter what today looks like. That steadiness is what eventually turns dreams into reality. Mental discipline also requires protecting what enters your mind. You become selective about the information you consume, the conversations you engage in, and the people you spend time with. You realize that your environment constantly feeds your thoughts, so you choose to feed your mind with ideas that inspire, challenge, and strengthen you. The disciplined mind doesn't allow gossip, fear, or negativity to take root. It filters out the noise so it can focus on growth. This constant guarding of your mental environment is an act of self-respect. You begin to treat your thoughts as sacred because you understand they are the building blocks of your destiny. Discipline, practiced daily, also creates emotional stability. When your thinking is orderly, your emotions follow. You become less reactive, more composed, and more capable of handling whatever life presents. You no longer waste energy fighting temporary feelings because you've trained your mind to lead instead of follow. This calm focus gives you an unmistakable presence, the quiet confidence of someone who knows where they are going and refuses to be distracted by the noise around them. Over time, consistent mental discipline becomes a way of living. It no longer feels forced because it becomes part of who you are. You start each morning with purpose, guiding your thoughts before the day begins to guide you. You monitor your inner dialogue, correct it when it drifts, and remind yourself of what truly matters. You develop the habit of gratitude, of focus, of patience, not through willpower alone, but through repetition. The more consistent you are, the more natural it becomes. Your thoughts align with your values, your actions align with your thoughts, and your life begins to align with your highest vision. Discipline turns this alignment into a lifestyle. It is the quiet, invisible work that builds character, peace, and lasting success, the kind that endures when motivation fades and challenges arise, because it's built on the strength of daily mental mastery. When you change the way you think, your entire world begins to transform. Every experience, every relationship, every opportunity you encounter is filtered through the lens of your mind. The thoughts you hold determine how you see reality, and how you see reality determines how you respond to it. When your thinking shifts, your perception expands, and suddenly what once looked impossible begins to feel attainable. The external world doesn't change first, your mind does. Then everything else rearranges itself to match the new level of thought you've chosen to live from. This is the unseen mechanism behind every transformation in life. Nothing in your circumstances can remain the same once your thinking rises to a higher plane. Your world is a reflection of your inner state. If you live with thoughts of scarcity, you will always find evidence of limitation. If you live with thoughts of abundance, you will begin to notice opportunities that were invisible before. This happens because the mind is constantly searching for proof of what it believes. When you think differently, you instruct your subconscious to look for new patterns, new paths, and new possibilities. It starts to filter information in ways that align with your new expectations. You begin to attract people, ideas, and experiences that resonate with your dominant mental vibration. The change is subtle at first, but over time it becomes undeniable. Life begins to mirror the growth that's happening within you. Changing your thinking is not about pretending everything is perfect. It's about consciously choosing thoughts that empower you instead of weaken you. Every time you replace fear with faith, frustration with patience, or doubt with determination, you reshape the energy you bring into the world. Those shifts, though invisible, carry great force. They affect how you speak, how you act, and how others respond to you. People are drawn to those who think clearly, who carry a quiet sense of certainty about where they're going. When your thinking becomes ordered and purposeful, it creates harmony around you. The situations and opportunities that once seemed beyond your reach begin to align naturally because you've become the kind of person who attracts them. Your outer world can only grow as large as your inner vision allows. Many people stay confined within small boundaries not because they lack ability, but because they've never allowed their thinking to go beyond what's familiar. They replay the same thoughts every day, creating the same outcomes year after year. But the moment you stretch your thinking, when you allow yourself to imagine a bigger life, a higher standard, a new possibility, you open the door for change. The mind is like a lens. When you widen it, more light enters. As you expand your thoughts, you begin to see solutions where before there were only obstacles. You realize that limits are rarely physical. They are mental walls built by old beliefs. Every major breakthrough begins with a change in thinking. The person who succeeds where others fail is not necessarily more talented or more fortunate. They simply think differently about the challenge before them. They believe that every problem carries a seed of opportunity, that every setback is preparation for a greater victory. That mindset transforms how they act, and those actions transform their results. When you adopt this same perspective, you stop waiting for circumstances to improve and start improving your thoughts instead. Once your thinking rises, your behavior follows, and your results catch up. Changing your thoughts also changes how you experience the present moment. The same situation can be a burden to one person and a blessing to another, depending on how they choose to see it. Your thoughts give meaning to events, and meaning determines emotion. When you choose thoughts that create peace and gratitude, even ordinary moments begin to feel extraordinary. The quality of your life improves not because the world outside has changed, but because your awareness within has expanded. You start noticing beauty in places you once overlooked, lessons in moments you once resisted, and strength in challenges you once feared. This is the quiet miracle of transformation, the realization that you do not need to wait for life to change before you do. The act of changing your thinking is itself the catalyst for every other change that follows. As your thoughts evolve, your choices evolve. As your choices evolve, your reality evolves. Bit by bit, the world around you rearranges to match the person you've decided to become. You begin to understand that success, happiness, and peace were never external goals to be chased, but reflections of the state of mind you cultivate each day. The true work is always within, for the outer world will always be the shadow of the inner one, and when the light of new thought shines within, everything outside begins to glow with it.